everybody, Zolo here. Today we're gonna go over OP17 pre-release cards. We'll kind of go over general rules that I follow when making my deck for pre-release, and then we'll go over cards that I think are auto-include. Some of these do have a caveat though, and I'll explain it when I get there. And then finally we'll go over what I think are just the best 5 blanket. Yeah, so generally speaking, this is what you want your deck to look like. You want to do 12 2Ks, 12 blockers, all of your vanilla cards, and then the rest good cards. These 12 and 12, it's kind of, you know, it's more based on how many you pull. So if you're at 10 2Ks or 10 blockers, don't worry about it, just throw them all in there. One thing that I would say about the rest good cards, if you're kind of deciding between 2 cards that you think are in similar power, I would go through your deck, look whether or not you have even or odd curve, and then make the decision on the card based on that. So for starters, we got Atmos 4/6, opponent's turn, this character gains plus 3000 power. Just generally good stats, 4/6, vanilla, and then it's hard to kill on your opponent's turn. Next we have Ezo, another 4/6. This has character rush on play. If your leader is Edward Newgate or has the Land of Wano type, give up to one of your opponent's rested characters minus 6k for the turn. This seems like one of the better cards for this set. It's got good vanilla stats, it's got character rush, and just gives a blanket minus 6 to deal with board. Next we have Haruda, 4/5, 1k counter, opponent's turn, plus 3k, on play KO up to one of your opponent's 2k base power or less. Not the strongest card, but can be like kind of situational. It's pretty decent. Next we have Jozu, 6/8, on play. Your Edward Newgate leader base power becomes 8k until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Once again, you're going to see a lot of cards like this, just vanilla stats with a good on play or good effect. Being 8k leader for a turn is extremely strong. Next we have the 6/6 ace, 1k counter. If your opponent has a character with 10,000 power or more, give this card in your hand minus 2 cost. There are a lot of big boss monsters in this set. I don't know exactly how many people are going to be running in pre-release, but potentially this card is a 4/6, which is basically like Ezo, except for it doesn't have the character rush. So it's just a worse Ezo, but it has a 1k counter, so not a bad card at all. Next we have Lock Punch and monsters. I think green is probably the strongest color in the set, so if you pull more green than anything, you'll be looking good. Anyway, 4/3, 1k counter blocker, on play, KO up to one of your opponent's rested, 6 or less. So good removal, it's got a blocker, it's just a good card. Next we have the 4/5, 1k counter Luffy, on play, you may rest one of your Dawn cards, this character gains rush during this turn. Then activate main, if you have 5 or less cards in hand, set up to one of your Dawn cards is active. Generally speaking, you're gonna probably have around 5 cards in pre-release. There's a decent amount of draw cards this time, but you know, a 5/5 rush, just a decent card. It's 1k counter as well. Next we have Yasop, 5/6, 1k counter, on play, draw 1 card, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 8 or less. And end of turn, set up to one of your characters with the type, including red hair pirates, as active. So, this is an amazing card. You draw one, you rest an 8 or less, you can swing into it, or rest a blocker. And then the end of turn, you can restand one of the other big boss monsters in green, or you can restand itself, which is very strong. Next we have Beckman. You pull this card. Good job. You might have just won your OP17 release. 7/9 rush character. On play, if your leader has the red-haired type pirates, draw one card and rest 2 of your opponent's characters. So good for board control, has card draw, vanilla stats, and also good for the end of the game if you need to get over blockers, which chances are you won't because of this card that we're going to get up to. Next we have Howling Gab, 8/8, 1k counter, banish. On play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters. I think this is one of the weaker boss monsters for Shanks. When you're just using the Luffy, it's not going to be super helpful to Rainbow Luffy, but you know, obviously in Shanks it's a little bit better because you can freeze it. Still a good card though. Rest blocker or something that you want to get rid of. Also has banish. Alright, next we have what I think is probably the best card in the set. It's going to make the blockers in the set and pre-release kind of useless. It is an SR, so you might only get one if you get one. Anyway, Shanks, 10/12, rush, on play, set up to 2 of your down cards as active, then rest all of your opponent's characters. The reason I think this is the best card is even if you have nothing on board, you're still swinging 7 and a 12 at life, and or potentially the board. So very strong card. Alright, now we're gonna get into the Rocks Pirates cards, but I need to add a caveat to this section. These cards are very good, but they're also all bricks. So while you do want to play a good amount of them, you also have to take into effect every single one of these cards in this blue is a brick. So we'll go over them. They're all very strong. This card, 1 cost 2k, on play, look at the top 2 of your deck, sort them, and then put them at the top or bottom, and then draw a card. Just a solid early draw, or I mean even late draw, just a solid draw card in general. Next we have Stuzy, 3/5, on play, up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 6 or less cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Activate main, you may rest 3 down cards and this character. Up to one of your opponent's characters cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next end phase. This is a very strong card. Good in the early game, it has vanilla stats. Good in the late game. One thing about it though is that I think in this meta, because there's so many big guys, you probably just don't want to attack with it. You just want to keep it in your hand, play it out to get the on play, and then leave it on board and let your opponent play one of these bigger 9 or 10 costs and freeze it. Alright, next we have Captain John, 4/6. If your leader type includes Rock Pirates, which it does, and this character is rested, your opponent cannot attack any other card besides Captain John. Activate main, you may rest this character, draw 1, trash 1. So this card is pretty good. It's more of a defensive card, draw 1, trash 1. So it's not super strong in the format. It's basically like another kid, if you remember that card. But it is draw 1, trash 1. You get to rest it immediately. So it is a very defensive card that also filters your hand. Next we have Gloriosa, 4/1 blocker. On play, place up to one of your character cards with a cost of 5 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. 4-cost blocker with good removal. Always going to be an auto-clued. Next we have Ganzui, I think that's how you pronounce it, 5/7. If this character would be removed from the field, you may trash 2 cards from your hand instead. On play, your leader's base power becomes 6k until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Vanilla stats gives your leader base 6k power and has like a nice anti-removal effect as well. Just to add on. This is Lin, 5/7. On play, your opponent chooses one, draw 2 cards, or your opponent trashes 2 from their hand. On your opponent's attack once per turn, you may trash a card, give a leader or character plus 1k for the battle. So, this is a very strong card. Early game or late game, vanilla stat line, makes your opponent give you 2 cards, generally speaking. They're not going to want to trash the cards. And then you can also get a free 1k off a brick. Next we have Barbell, 5/7. On KO, your opponent places 2 cards from their hand at the bottom of their deck in any order. Activate main. Once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand. This character gains plus 3k during this turn. So it is a 5/10 if you trash a card. And it also stays on the board because generally your opponent's not going to want to KO it. Next we have Shiki, 7/9, character rush. When attacking or on your opponent's attack once per turn, you may trash 1 card that includes the Rock Pirates type from your hand. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 3k for the turn. So this is a pretty good card. The reason I left it in here is because I think without using the second effect, it's still a decent card. Obviously, if you can get the second effect, it's even better. But I would say generally, you're probably not gonna do this effect too much unless you just have like a ton of Rock Pirates, but then I would even be worried because then you have no counter. All right, next we have is Purple. It's mostly just going to be the boss monsters for Purple that are good, but I do want to point out this 2-cost 2k counter Drake. I think this is probably the best 2k in the set. So it's a 2k, so you're going to keep it in your hand unless you need to use it for counter. And then at the very end of the game, you can play 2 Dawn, put those 2 Dawn back, and then your opponent trashes a card. So, you know, if it's a close game and you're getting down to the very last cards in your hand, this might be a game winner for you. Your opponent has, let's say, 2 cards in their hand. They have to get rid of 1. They're probably getting rid of counter if they only have 2 cards in hand and it's down like to the very end of the game. And, you know, if you don't use it, then it's a 2k counter. So what's the problem? So super underrated. I don't think I've seen anybody really talk about this card yet. All right, next we have Lead Performers. 9 costs 11k power. On play, Dawn -1. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. And then activate main, you may trash this character, play up to 1 King, Queen, or Jack from your hand. So the first effect is the better effect. It's still a big body. You get a life. So potentially, you know, you can play this out with like 1 life, depending on board state. And then potentially you could use the second effect if you see the next card. But generally speaking, I would just say it's better just be on the board as a big body. So the next card is this Queen, which you can play off of it, which is a 9/10 banish. On play, Dawn -1, you draw a card. Then 2 of your opponent's characters that are 5 or less cannot attack until your opponent's next end phase. A ton of value, and then on top of that it has Banish. Next we have the 10 cost Kaido. All character cards in your hand without a counter have +1k counter. And then activate main once per turn, down -1. If this character is played this turn, negate the effect of one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less during this turn and KO it. So it'll get around anything that has the anti-KO removal and anything that has on KO stuff. The reason I put this one in and not the other one, I will say you should probably play the other one as well because it is a blocker. And you're just hoping that your opponent doesn't play Shanks or didn't pull it. I do think that this one is a little bit better than the blocker just because it makes all of your Rocks Pirates 1k counters, which honestly that seems super strong. And yeah, it's just a big body. All right, next we are going to talk about the Elbaf cards, but I need to put another caveat on this one as well, which is I really only think that Loki by itself is a good card. And Loki is a 6/8. His character gains +12 cost and gains +3k on your opponent's turn. Then on play, KO up to any number of your opponent's characters with a total cost of 4 or less. So one thing about this set is that a lot of the cards are very leader dependent. So the Rocks Pirates, the Elbaf, not so much Elbaf as far as leader goes, but as far as your entire deck goes. So I highlighted these two 2Ks. These cards just give give this card +12 cost. So if we look at the Elbaf cards, pretty much all of them activate when you have a character with 12 or more. So I really only think that Loki is viable as far as OP17 pre-release, because unless you just have like an insane amount of cards that give +12 costs to themselves, running the rest of these 2 costs that get buffed from it are probably not worth it. So I think, you know, depending on what you pull, if you just pull a ton of black cards and you have a ton of these characters that give +12 cost, then yeah, just make your deck more centered around it, and it'll honestly probably be a pretty good deck because it's kind of like known as like the slop deck. So it can be fit into a bunch of different leaders. But I will say, I really think that Loki is the only card in the set as far as black goes that is worth just playing on its own. All right, now we'll go on to yellow. I think yellow kind of suffers from the same problem. A lot of the cards in yellow are these 4k power cards. And I don't really think that, unless you have like multiple big moms that you pulled that give them the +4k power, I don't think they're really worth it to run. And I think this is a perfect example of it. Pudding. This card is insane, but no real color has triggers except for yellow. So unless you're running just a massive, like mostly yellow deck, this pudding really isn't good because you're never going to get the effect off. Same with some of these other, like this one for instance. This card is not great unless you have Linden in your deck. And so that's why I've kind of left off everything except for this cracker. I think this cracker is probably still worth it just because of how cheap it is. So we got 3/4, 1k counter. Your turn on play, you may rest 2 of your down cards. If your leader is big bomb type, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. So if you want to do the effect, you're playing 5 Dawn for 4k, but you are getting a life. So this really isn't too bad. You know, you just put a Dawn on it and then you swing out for 5. But I do not think that these higher cost ones are worth it. I've seen some people talk about this one specifically because you don't have to rest any Dawn. I mean, including its stat, the minus 3k, so it's like a 6-7 1k that heals. You know what? Actually, we're gonna put that one in there. That one does seem alright. Okay, so we'll do these two, but I would say the rest, where you have to rest the Dawn to get the heal, probably not worth it. So we'll talk about category. 6-4, 1k counter. If your leader is Big Mom, you get a life, and then give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 3k for the turn. So this is probably the only other one that I think is probably worth it, just because you don't have to rest any Dawn cards for the on-play to gain a life. And then finally, the last card is the 10 cost Linden. 10 cost 12k, your turn. The base power of all of your characters with a trigger and 4,000 base become 8,000. So when Linden's on board, these are 8,000 on your turn. And on play, draw one, then choose one. Either gain a life or make your opponent take a life. Another big boss monster has draw, has life or life burn. I don't think there's really too much to explain. All right, so we'll go into my top 5. I think Shanks, I think it's still a top 5 card, or I think it's still number 1. Just because in the format, generally speaking, you want to run like 10 or 12 blockers. So really, people are going to have to make sure that they're not leaving their blockers for endgame, because as soon as I play this, the blockers are useless. Alright, next, I think this 4 cost Ezo is the next best card. It's got Rush, or it's got Character Rush. And then you're just basically, I mean, if you play this out on 4, generally speaking, you're swinging into like a negative power character. And even if you play it out on 6, you're probably swinging into like a 0 power or 2,000 power character, which is just insanely good for board control, which is pretty important in the format. All right, next we have Ben Beckman, another board control. I mean, what's to say? This card just does too many things to not be really good. So that's 3. 4, I'm gonna go with Jozu. I think being an AK leader is going to be insanely strong in the format, just because there's only one other card that increases your leader, and that is this one, which only makes it 6k. So being plus 2k is just insane. All right, then the last one, and I think this and Jozu could be interchanged. This could be 4, Jozu could be 5, but we're just gonna put this at 5, is the Queen. 9 cost, 10k, Banished Queen. Once again, it's kind of like the Beckman, it just does too much stuff to not be good. And then the Banish is just kind of a new, or another thing to add on. That's it for me today, everybody. Good luck in your OP17 pre-releases. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe. I haven't been doing as many videos lately, but I'm gonna try to get into the 1 video a week schedule again. All right, peace out, everybody.